Is this reaching you? The reason I have summoned you is that other iterators have spoken of a certain mercenary willing to do menial work. The genetic code that was sent to me matches that of yours. Your additional physiological enhancements make you a reasonable candidate for this mission.
What's the job?
A number of pearls have gone missing from my chamber, and I require you to return them to me. The information stored on them is rather delicate, and I'd rather it not fall into the greedy hands of scavengers to be used as mere currency.
How many are there?
In total, there are 24 of them. Their colour variations separate them from the dead or useless pearls that were dropped back when the structure was considered a home to some. Your payment, should you accept this expedition, is that you are free to keep the pearls once the data has been successfully extracted. Do you agree to these terms?
Yeah, I can do that.
Wonderful. Please take the access shaft and be on your merry way.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, after a recent catastrophe, there seems to be an outbreak of insects throughout my structure as the ecosystem repairs itself. I suggest you practice caution.
How bad can it be? So, this wasn't my best idea. When thinking of video ideas, I asked myself, what's something someone hasn't done before? Oh, I know! How about getting all the coloured pearls with Spearmaster's Nightmares on? Gee, I wonder why no one's done that before. I did a lot of planning for this, and boy it didn't make things any easier. Neither did any of the stat changes or perks I used. Now, while this is an expedition, I've turned off permadeath. Screw that! Having permadeath as a threat on top of bugs would have destroyed me. And good thing too, because we would have failed before getting our first pearl. The main reason for this to be an expedition is that I can have explosion resistance, because, oh my god! I'm what's known as, in the scientific community, a clumsy bitch. Also, during the planning stage, I found I had the most success with Rivulet Speed. To easily explain the modifications I've given the Cloud Scug, think Hunter's Throw, Saint's Tongue, and Artie's Teeth. I've also added the Carnivore Reborn mod just so Cloudy Boy can get some munches from his kills. Now, the route. When figuring out a route for this, I found that Shoreline took me completely out of a comfortable loop as I didn't want to cross the same region twice. Mainly the big swim before Looks to the Moon. So the campaign of choice is Artificers due to Moon being closed off, and thanks to this mod by Shiny Kelp, I can change the Player 1 Scug for Expeditions, so I can stick to playing Saint despite it being an Artificer expedition. It took a while of routing because I kept forgetting Chimney Canopy or Outskirts existed, but I finally got it. The route goes as follows: 5 Pebbles, Exterior, Metropolis, Shaded Citadel, Waterfront Facility, Garbage Wastes, Drainage System, Chimney Canopy, Industrial Complex, Outskirts, Farm Arrays, Sky Islands, Pipe Yard, and finally, Subterranean. That should be the basics explained for this. So, let's get on with the pearl hunting. The exterior was easy. Just run across the roof, grab the pearl, and go to the next gate. I'll say this here because I don't actually remember the point I realised it, but the Karma Flower perk just stopped working. Maybe I still don't know how Karma Flowers work, especially in expeditions, but I swear they're just meant to be in or near to the spot you died, and they just stopped showing up after a while. Can someone explain this to me? Am I missing something? Looking back on it, the same thing happened with the Apex Predator. You know, in the expedition video I did. The Karma Flowers just stopped, and I don't know why. They started off working just fine, and then they just went poof, like an angel's kiss. It made the whole thing so much more stressful. So later on, while I'm struggling to get enough karma for gates, if you're wondering why I'm not taking advantage of karma flowers, they're just non-existent at some point. I honestly thought I died a lot more in Metropolis, but I was probably remembering the planning stages more than anything. It's why Metropolis was at the start of the route rather than the end. I remember it being an absolute nightmare. Now, if you thought the amount of scavengers was bad, try the metric fuck ton of dropwigs. Not only do they love to camp at doorways, but they also like to clump together at doorways like this. Kinda reminds me of my waking hallucinations I get sometimes. Just a clump of squiggles that turns into a horde of spiders. Does anyone else get that? Slowly but surely, I was getting the hang of taking care of dropwigs. It's probably obvious, but I did have the interactive map by my side, which allowed me to see where the pearls are and how to get there. It's hard enough fighting off the bugs without being completely lost on top of that. I always run into the tomato pearl during my trips to Metropolis, but the green one is in an area that I never really go to. In fact, I don't think I've ever been to this area before, because I'm usually dead by this point. But Metropolis has got to be my favourite region to explore. It's a great time when you're not shitting bricks every 2 seconds.
What the fucking fuck?
When I got the green pearl, I was dreading the trip back, but it actually worked out really well. With Metropolis done and dusted, we just had to venture down the wall to find more pearls. It started off all easy, but once I got to Underhang, that was where all hell broke loose. There's so many dropwigs down there. I'm surprised it wasn't running like a PowerPoint presentation. At some point I lost my spears and I thought I was just going to have to hit the bricks and rely on stuns. But then I remembered something. I forgot I added that, but it gave me a much needed confidence boost now that I wasn't completely defenseless. The plan was, stun the bug with rock, chomp and reap the benefits. Using corpses as bait also works really well. They tend to leave you alone once they've caught something. I was making some good progress. I was feeling confident that even without spears, I was going to be okay. And then I was humbled. This lower section was nice because the dropwigs were just hanging out like they were waiting for a bus. However, it was a lot of trial and error, and I slowly made progress each time if RNG was on my side. Once I got to the leg, it only got worse. Look at these clumps! I tried going into the shelter halfway down, and... yeah, that was a kick in the teeth. And then it happened again.
Man, I'm dead.
I eventually discovered a small shortcut so I didn't have to keep going the long way. There was a moment where I remembered I had item crafting on, so I had the power of raid spray for the clumps.
Oops.
There was no way I was going to get to that shelter without there being a horde of dropwigs already set up, so I had a quick peruse of the map and found that there was a shelter at the bottom just outside the gate. The gate was also Karma 1, so I didn't have to worry about karma grinding once I got to the bottom, which was nice. However, I started having flashbacks of a particular moment in my hunter run where a dropwig killed me right before the gate. The very thought of having to go through all that again because of a chance dropwig? Yeah, no, I'm sleeping in the shelter. I don't want to do that again. It was horrible. You wanna know what's better than bugs that camouflage? Bugs that camouflage in the fucking dark! While the deaths were minimal, the pants shitting wasn't.
He loads up one pair, then puts on another pair and blows apart them things too. It's like some kind of britches holocaust.
It wasn't too painful though. I mainly struggled finding where the pearl was because it's behind a hidden pathway. Add that to the list of things I forget about. You've probably already noticed this, but one of the objectives for this expedition is to find the shaded echo. The reason for that is because it's the one that I kind of forget the location. There's a little patch of shaded where I always get kind of spun around in, and that's usually where the echo is. So I thought, hey, I'll put the shaded echo there so I won't accidentally grab it. Guess who waltzed right into the area? But then I remembered that even with Saint, you need to activate the echoes first, and you need to be at max karma for them to even appear in the first place, so no risk of me accidentally completing the expedition before I got all the pearls. Because that was my worst nightmare. I've been through Shaded Citadel quite a bit, so I do tend to know my way around, so getting to the gate wasn't all that hard. Yeah, that's a great start. After that little mishap, we grabbed the first pearl and... We grabbed the first pearl and got to the first shelter.
I just crapped on myself.
I was in a tough spot with this one, as both options were a case of potential death, but I did manage to get it on the 5th attempt. Being bullied by jellyfish and drowning as a result has to be one of my most embarrassing deaths. You're probably asking why I didn't just swim down there after getting the pearl the first time. Simply put, I couldn't remember where to go. Maybe it's because I don't really go to shoreline very often, but I can never remember the layout. It all just kind of blurs together for me, and I have no idea why. It's not a hard region, I just can't dedicate it to memory. And before you say anything, I know I had the map on me, but hear me out. For the sake of everyone's sanity, including mine because I have to edit this thing, I decided to only look at the map in between cycles, because this footage would have looked absolutely terrible had I been pausing every couple seconds. And if you think that's an exaggeration, it's not. By the time I've set my phone down and picked up my controller, it's already gone. So much of this footage is just me sat on the hibernation or death screens, studying the map. And thank God I didn't have live commentary on, because it would have just been me saying the directions over and over again. It's so bad. Anyway, moving swiftly on from my terrible sense of direction, surprisingly, not a lot happened in Waterfront. There was this close call right after I got the pearl. Had I dropped it down the water pit, I think I would have actually quit the run. I would have been so angry. I remember dreading Waterfront Facility during the planning stages, but a lot of that was just worrying about getting lost and then losing a shit ton of progress. Thankfully my fears weren't realised, and Waterfront Facility went surprisingly well.